My daughter shouted, "Get out of my life." So I went to the bank and blocked every card I had given her. The words hit me like a slap across the face. "Get out of my life, Mother! Just get out!" Veronica stood in my kitchen, in my house that I'd been paying the mortgage on for 32 years, with her face twisted in a rage I'd never seen before. Her fiancé Trevor stood behind her, his arms crossed, nodding like some kind of backup dancer in a music video. They both looked at me like I was the intruder, like I was the problem. "You're ruining everything!" Veronica shrieked. Her perfectly manicured finger pointed at my chest. "This is my wedding, my life, and you're being selfish. All we're asking for is what we deserve." What they deserved. That phrase had been coming up a lot lately. "Veronica, please," I said, my voice shaking. "I've given you $42,000 already. I've emptied my savings account. I've taken out a loan against this house. I can't or won't," Trevor cut in, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're sitting on this whole house, Linda. A house you don't even need. Veronica told me you rattle around here all alone. Why shouldn't we have it? We're starting a family. You're just existing. Just existing." At 65 years old, after raising Veronica by myself from the time she was 3, after her father walked out and never sent a single child support check, after working double shifts at the hospital for 20 years to put her through college, I was just existing. "Get out," Veronica repeated, her voice cold now instead of shrill. "Get out of this house. Trevor and I need to discuss what we're going to do about you." About me. Like I was a problem to be solved. I looked at my daughter, my only child, the girl I'd rocked through countless nightmares, the teenager I'd stayed up with during her college application crises, the young woman whose hand I'd held through her first heartbreak, and I didn't recognize her. "Fine," I heard myself say. My voice sounded calm, distant, like it was coming from someone else. "I'll leave." I picked up my purse from the kitchen counter and walked to the front door. Behind me, I heard Trevor say, "Finally, now we can talk about getting her to sign those papers." I closed the door behind me, stood on my own front porch, looked at the garden I'd planted last spring, the roses I'd nursed through the summer drought, the welcome mat that said "Home Sweet Home" in cheerful yellow letters, and I smiled, because what they didn't know was that I had already been planning. They didn't know that this 65-year-old woman had one more card to play. They didn't know about the voice recordings on my phone, the copies of documents I'd made, the lawyer I'd been consulting for the past 2 weeks, or the bank appointment I had scheduled for first thing Monday morning. They thought I was weak. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was just a convenient ATM machine with a house attached. But I was Margaret Linda Thornton, and I had survived worse than this. It was time my daughter learned that. 6 weeks earlier. The first demand came over breakfast on a Thursday morning in late March. I remember the date exactly, March 23rd. I'd made blueberry pancakes, Veronica's favorite since she was 7 years old, and she'd come over for our weekly breakfast together. "Mom, Trevor and I need to talk to you about the wedding," she said, pushing her pancakes around on her plate. I smiled. "Of course, honey. Have you set a date?" "August 15th, at the Sterling Grove Estate." She said it like I should be impressed. I'd driven past the Sterling Grove Estate. It was one of those massive mansion venues with columns and fountains, and probably cost more per hour than I made in a month. "That's wonderful," I said, even though my stomach was already tightening. "That's only about 5 months away. Are you sure you can plan everything in time?" "We've already started." She pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet, with numbers that made my head spin. "The venue is $35,000 for the day. The catering is $150 per plate for 200 guests. That's another $30,000. My dress is $12,000. It's Vera Wang, Mom. I've dreamed about a Vera Wang dress since I was a little girl." $12,000 for a dress? I couldn't help it. The words just came out. Her face hardened. Some mothers would be happy to help their only daughter have the wedding of her dreams. I am happy, sweetheart. That's a lot of money. We know you have savings, Mom, Dad's life insurance, your pension, the equity in this house. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her touch was soft, her eyes pleading. You've always said you wanted to help me when I got married, remember? You used to tell me stories about how you'd make sure I had a beautiful wedding, not like yours. She was right. I had said that. My own wedding had been at City Hall, with borrowed shoes and a dress from JCPenney. My mother hadn't been able to afford anything more, and I'd told myself that when Veronica got married, it would be different. She'd have everything. But I'd been thinking, 5,000 maybe? 10 at most. How much are you asking for? My voice was barely a whisper. Just 40,000 to start, for the deposits. Trevor and I will handle the rest. She squeezed my hand. Please, Mom. This is so important to us. $40,000. My entire savings account was $53,000. Money I'd been saving for retirement, for emergencies, for the day when my nursing pension wouldn't be enough. But when I looked at Veronica's face, my baby girl's face, I couldn't say no. Okay, I said. I'll transfer it this week. The hug she gave me was tight and warm, and for a moment, I felt like I'd done the right thing, like I was being the mother she deserved. I met with my lawyer, Patricia Hernandez, for the first time on April 8th. I'd found her through my friend Dorothy, who I met every morning for walks in Riverside Park. Dorothy and I had been walking together for 3 years, ever since we'd both retired. She was 72, sharp as a tack, and took no nonsense from anyone. When I'd mentioned that Veronica was asking for money for the wedding, Dorothy had stopped dead in the middle of the walking path. How much? She'd demanded. 40,000. Linda, tell me you didn't give her $40,000. She's getting married, Dorothy. What was I supposed to do? Dorothy had pulled out her phone right there on the path and called her lawyer. Patricia Hernandez. She helped my nephew when his kids were trying to get him declared incompetent so they could take his house. Call her. Today. I did. Patricia's office was small but neat, in a converted brownstone in the downtown area. She was maybe 50, with gray streaks in her black hair and glasses that she kept pushing up her nose. When I told her my story, she didn't seem surprised. Mrs. Thornton, what you're describing is financial elder abuse. It's more common than you'd think. But she's my daughter, I protested. She's not abusing me. She needs help with her wedding. You said she asked for $40,000. Have you seen receipts for any deposits? Do you know for certain that money went to wedding vendors? I hadn't. I'd just transferred it to Veronica's account, trusting that she'd use it for what she said. Patricia folded her hands on her desk. I'm not saying your daughter is definitely scamming you, but I am saying that you need to protect yourself. What other assets do you have? My house. It's worth about $350,000, and I owe $120,000 on the mortgage. I have my pension, about $2,000 a month, and I have $13,000 left in savings after I gave Veronica the money. Do you have a will? An old one, from 20 years ago. Everything goes to Veronica. And do you have any concerns that she might try to access more of your money or property? I thought about Trevor's comment last week, when they'd come over for dinner. He'd looked around my living room and said, "This is a lot of space for one person, Linda. Ever thought about downsizing?" The way he'd said it, like he was doing me a favor by suggesting I give up my home. Maybe, I admitted. I don't know. Patricia pulled out a legal pad. Here's what I want you to do. First, we're going to create a new will with very specific provisions. Second, we're going to set up a trust for your assets that has conditions. Third, and this is important, I want you to start documenting everything. Every conversation about money, every request. If you can, record conversations. Michigan is a one-party consent state, which means as long as you're part of the conversation, you can legally record it. You want me to record my own daughter? I want you to protect yourself. If I'm wrong and your daughter has pure intentions, great. You'll have peace of mind. But if I'm right... She looked at me seriously. Then you'll have evidence. I left Patricia's office that day with a homework assignment. Start carrying my phone with a recording app ready. Document every financial request in writing. Send emails confirming conversations. Keep receipts. It felt wrong. It felt like I was betraying Veronica. But something in my gut told me Patricia was right. The second demand came 3 weeks later, on April 29th. I know because I wrote it down immediately afterward, just like Patricia had taught me. Veronica and Trevor came over on a Sunday afternoon. I'd made pot roast, another one of her favorites, and we were sitting in the living room drinking coffee when Trevor cleared his throat. "Linda, we need to talk about something important," he said. My phone was in my cardigan pocket, recording app already running. I'd started doing that every time they visited. "Of course," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "The thing is," Veronica jumped in, "we've been doing a lot of thinking about our future, about starting a family, and we realized that with the cost of living these days, with housing prices, we need to make some smart financial decisions." Here it comes, I thought. "We think you should add Trevor to the deed of this house," Veronica said. "Just as a precaution. You're 65, Mom. What if something happens to you? What if you have a medical emergency and someone needs to make decisions about the property? If Trevor's on the deed, everything would be so much simpler." "Trevor?" I repeated. "Not you?" "Well, obviously me too," Veronica said quickly. "But Trevor has experience with real estate. He's better at handling these things." Trevor had been a car salesman for 8 years. He'd been fired from his last 2 jobs. I knew this because Dorothy's grandson worked at the same dealership. But I didn't say any of that. "I'll have to think about it," I said. "Mom." Veronica's voice took on an edge. "Don't you trust us?" "Of course I do, honey." "Then why won't you just do this? It's not like we're asking you to move out." "We just want to make sure everything's handled properly. I need to talk to my lawyer first." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Veronica's face flushed. "Your lawyer? Since when do you have a lawyer? What, are you planning to cut me out of your will or something?" "No, sweetheart, I just..." "This is ridiculous." Trevor stood up abruptly. "We're trying to help you, and you're treating us like criminals. Come on, Veronica, let's go." Veronica stood too, but she paused at the door. "You're being paranoid, Mom, and it's hurtful. Think about that." After they left, I sat in my living room for a long time, listening to the recording. Their voices were so clear, so calculating. If Trevor's on the deed, everything would be so much simpler. Simple for whom? I called Patricia the next morning. "They want to be added to my house deed." "Absolutely not. Do not do that under any circumstances. If you put their names on that deed, they become co-owners. They could force a sale. They could take out loans against it. Do not do it." Veronica made me feel like I don't trust her. "Linda." Patricia's voice was gentle. "Trust is earned. Has Veronica shown you receipts for where that $40,000 went?" She hadn't. Every time I'd asked, she'd gotten offended and changed the subject. "I'm going to send you some documents," Patricia said. "I want you to sign a power of attorney that designates me as your legal representative for financial and health decisions, with specific provisions that Veronica cannot override. And I want you to come in this week so we can discuss setting up a revocable trust." A trust? It means your assets would be held in a trust that you control, but that has rules about how they can be accessed. It would protect you, and ironically, it would protect Veronica too, from her own poor decisions. That week, I also joined a WhatsApp group that Dorothy added me to. It was called Silver Warriors, and it had 12 other women in it, all between 65 and 80 years old, all dealing with difficult adult children or financial concerns, or both. The messages were eye-opening. Barbara, 68. My son took out a credit card in my name, ran up $23,000 in charges. Police said it's hard to prosecute when it's family. Jean, 71. Granddaughter asked to borrow my car, sold it and moved to Nevada. Haven't seen her in 2 years. Dorothy, 72. Best decision I ever made was keeping my money matters private. My kids don't know what I have or where it is. They can find out when I'm dead. I spent a lot of time reading those messages late at night, lying in bed, wondering how I'd ended up here, wondering when my sweet daughter had become someone I needed to protect myself from. The third incident happened on May 15th. This time, I was ready. Veronica showed up unannounced on a Tuesday morning. I was in the garden pruning my roses when I heard her car in the driveway. She came around to the backyard, and I could see immediately that she'd been crying. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking. "I need your help. It's an emergency." My heart clenched. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "No, the wedding planner called. The Sterling Grove estate is demanding full payment by Friday or they're canceling our date. Mom, we'll lose everything, all the deposits. The date is only 3 months away. Everyone's already got their invitations." "How much do they need?" $65,000. $65,000. I literally didn't have $65,000. Not after giving her the first 40. "Veronica, I can't." "You have this house, Mom. You could take out a home equity loan. People do it all the time. Or you could sell the house and move into something smaller. You don't need all this space anyway." There it was again. That phrase about not needing space. I reached into my gardening apron and turned on my phone's recording app. It was already becoming second nature. "Sweetheart, I gave you $40,000 6 weeks ago. Where did that money go?" "I told you, deposits. The venue, the caterer, the dress. Show me receipts." Her face changed. The tears dried up like someone had flipped a switch. "Excuse me?" "Show me receipts for the $40,000 I gave you. If you spent it on wedding deposits, you should have receipts." "I can't believe you're asking me this. You're calling me a liar?" "I'm asking you to show me where the money went. That's not unreasonable." "It is unreasonable. You're my mother. You're supposed to support me, not interrogate me like I'm some kind of criminal." She was shouting now. "Trevor was right about you. He said you'd do this. He said you'd hold money over my head and try to control us." "Veronica, no, I'm done. I'm done, Mom. You know what? Keep your money. Keep your house. Keep everything. I don't need you. We don't need you." She stormed out of the backyard. I heard her car start, tires squealing as she backed out of the driveway too fast. I stood there in my garden, dirt on my knees, roses in my hand, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. I went inside, downloaded the recording, and emailed it to Patricia with the subject line, Evidence Number 3. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear from Veronica. It was the longest we'd gone without talking since she was born. I tried calling 3 times. Each call went to voicemail. I sent text messages. "Honey, can we talk? I love you. Please call me." Nothing. Dorothy told me this was a manipulation tactic. "It's called stonewalling. She's punishing you for setting boundaries. She thinks if she ignores you long enough, you'll panic and give her what she wants." The women in the Silver Warriors group agreed. Barbara, "Stand firm, Linda. You did the right thing." Jean, "My daughter did the same thing to me. 2 months of silence. Then suddenly she needed bail money." Shirley, 69. "Document everything. Those recordings are gold." On May 30th, I went back to Patricia's office. We set up the trust. We revised my will. We made copies of everything. Bank statements showing the $40,000 transfer, the recordings of Veronica's requests, emails, text messages. I feel like I'm preparing for war with my own daughter, I told Patricia. You're preparing to protect yourself, she corrected. There's a difference. That night, I sat down and did something I hadn't done in years. I calculated my actual net worth. The house, minus the mortgage, $230,000. My savings, $13,000. My pension, $2,000 a month for life. Social Security, $1,600 a month. My car, paid off, maybe $8,000. I had about $250,000 in assets, plus guaranteed income of $3,600 a month. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor either. I'd worked for 40 years to have this security, and my daughter wanted to take it all. The breaking point came on June 1st. That's when everything became crystal clear. I got a call from my bank, First National Bank, where I'd had my accounts for 30 years. Mrs. Thornton, this is Dennis Park from First National. I'm calling about some unusual activity on your account. My blood ran cold. What kind of activity? It appears there was an attempt to wire transfer $28,000 from your savings account to an external account this morning. The transfer was flagged by our fraud department because it exceeded your usual transaction patterns. I didn't authorize any transfer. That's what we suspected. Mrs. Thornton, do you have anyone else authorized to access your account? And then I remembered. 3 years ago, when I'd had gallbladder surgery, Veronica had talked me into adding her as a joint account holder, just in case something happened, and she needed to pay my bills. I'd meant to take her off the account after I recovered, but I'd forgotten. My daughter, I whispered. Veronica Thornton. It appears the transfer was initiated through our online portal using login credentials associated with your account. We've frozen the transfer pending your approval. Would you like to proceed with it? No. Block it. And remove my daughter from the account immediately. I'll need you to come in and sign some paperwork. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I drove to the bank in a daze. $28,000. She'd tried to take almost everything I had left without even asking me. Dennis Park was a kind man in his 40s. He walked me through the paperwork to remove Veronica from my account and set up additional security measures. Mrs. Thornton, I see here that there was also an inquiry about getting a home equity line of credit in your name. The inquiry came in yesterday. It appears someone called asking about loan amounts and rates. Someone? A male caller identified himself as your financial advisor and said he was helping you explore loan options. We didn't process anything without your authorization. But I thought you should know. Trevor. It had to be Trevor. Is there anyone I should call? Dennis asked gently. Adult Protective Services? The police? No, not yet. I'm handling it with my lawyer. He gave me his card. If you need anything, call me directly. And Mrs. Thornton, change all your passwords. Email, phone, everything. If your daughter had access to your bank account, she might have access to other things too. I went home and spent 3 hours changing passwords. Email, utilities, Netflix, everything. I found she had my email password saved on her phone. She must have watched me type it in at some point. She could have been reading my emails for years. The betrayal went deeper than money. It was trust. It was privacy. It was everything. That evening, I sent Veronica a text message. We need to talk. Come to the house tomorrow at 10 a.m. She responded immediately. Can't. Busy. It's not a request. 10 a.m. or I'm going to the police. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, fine. That night, I barely slept. I kept going over everything in my mind. The sweet little girl who'd held my hand on her first day of kindergarten. The teenager who'd cried in my arms when a boy broke her heart. The college graduate who'd thanked me in her valedictorian speech. When had she changed? Or had she always been this way, and I'd been too blind to see it? At 9:30 the next morning, I set up my phone on the bookshelf, angled so it would record the living room. I tested it twice to make sure the audio was clear. At 10:05, Veronica's car pulled up. She wasn't alone. Trevor was with her. They came in without knocking. Trevor looked around the living room like he was assessing real estate. Veronica stood with her arms crossed, defiant. "This better be important," she said. "We have an appointment with the caterer at noon." I took a breath, centered myself, remembered what Patricia had told me. Stay calm, state facts, don't engage with emotions. "I got a call from the bank yesterday," I said, "about the $28,000 you tried to transfer from my account." Veronica's face went pale, then red. "I can explain. I'm not interested in explanations. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I've removed you from my bank account. I've changed all my passwords. I've updated my will and set up a trust. You will not be getting any more money from me. Not for this wedding, not for anything." "You can't do that." Trevor stepped forward. "That's elder abuse, withholding financial support from your own daughter." "I'm 65, Trevor, not 95. And the legal definition of elder financial abuse is what Veronica tried to do yesterday, stealing from a parent. I have all of it recorded. Every conversation about money, every request, the attempted transfer, everything." Veronica's mouth opened and closed. "You recorded us? You've been recording us?" "One-party consent state. Completely legal." "You sneaky old—" Trevor caught himself. "This is insane. You're being paranoid and vindictive." "Here's what else I know," I continued, my voice steady. "The Sterling Grove estate? I called them. You never made a deposit. There is no August 15th wedding booked. The Vera Wang dress? The boutique has no record of a Veronica Thornton. The $40,000 I gave you? It didn't go to wedding expenses." I pulled out a folder Patricia had prepared. Bank records, screenshots of my calls to wedding vendors, a private investigator's report that Dorothy had insisted I get, which showed that Trevor had gambling debts of $60,000. "So here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to leave. You're not going to contact me again unless it's to apologize and pay back the $40,000 you took under false pretenses. If you try to access my finances again, if you come to this house again uninvited, if you harass me in any way, I'm going to the police with all of this evidence." "You wouldn't," Veronica whispered. "I'm your daughter." "And that's the only reason I'm giving you a chance to walk away instead of pressing charges right now." That's when Veronica screamed it. The words I mentioned at the beginning of this story. "Get out of my life, Mother, just get out!" And that's when I smiled, because I was already out. I was already free. They left. I heard Trevor saying something about getting a real lawyer, and "she can't do this." The door slammed. I went to my phone, stopped the recording, and backed it up to 3 different places: email, cloud storage, and a USB drive I gave to Dorothy for safekeeping. Then I called Patricia. "It's done. I confronted them. I have it all recorded." "How do you feel?" "Like I can breathe for the first time in months." The next morning, I went back to the bank. I blocked every single debit card, credit card, and check I'd ever given Veronica. I closed the joint account and opened a new one in my name only. I set up 2-factor authentication on everything. I changed my phone number and gave the new one only to Patricia, Dorothy, and the women in the Silver Warriors group. I also filed a police report about the attempted financial theft, just to have it on record. The officer who took my statement was young, couldn't have been more than 30, and he looked at me with such sympathy. "Ma'am, I see this more often than you'd think. Adult children taking advantage of their parents. The sad thing is, most parents don't have the courage to fight back. You're doing the right thing." "It doesn't feel right," I admitted. "It feels like I'm destroying my relationship with my daughter." "Ma'am, respectfully, she destroyed it when she tried to steal from you." A week went by. 2 weeks. A month. I didn't hear from Veronica. No apology. No attempt to pay back the money. Nothing. But I heard about them. Dorothy's nephew told her that Trevor had been fired from another job. The landlord at their apartment complex told Dorothy's friend that they were 3 months behind on rent. Veronica posted on Facebook asking if anyone had a spare room they could stay in temporarily. Part of me, the mother part, the part that had nursed her through chickenpox and taught her to ride a bike, wanted to call, wanted to help. But I didn't. Instead, I started living my life, really living it. I took a watercolor painting class at the senior center. I'd always wanted to paint. I joined a book club. I started volunteering at the library twice a week, reading to children. I took a trip to Charleston with Dorothy and 2 other women from our walking group. We stayed in a bed and breakfast, ate she-crab soup, and walked along the beach at sunrise. I used some of my savings that I'd earned, to update my kitchen. New countertops, new appliances. I'd been making do with 30-year-old everything because I'd been saving for Veronica's future. Well, now I was saving for my future. In August, what would have been the wedding month if any of it had been real, I got a letter from Veronica. Not a phone call. A letter. It was 3 pages long, full of excuses and justifications. She blamed Trevor for the gambling debts, said she'd been in a bad place, claimed she'd meant to pay me back all along. The last paragraph was the only part that mattered. I need help, Mom. We're about to be evicted. I know I messed up, but you're my mother. You're supposed to love me no matter what. Isn't that what mothers do? Can we please start over? Start over. As if $40,000 and months of lies and attempted theft could just be erased. I showed the letter to Patricia. It's your decision, she said. But if you take her back in, you set a precedent. You tell her that there are no consequences for her actions. She'll do it again. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but eventually. I showed it to Dorothy. She's not apologizing, Dorothy pointed out. She's asking for more money. Read it again. I need help. We're about to be evicted. Where's the I'm sorry? Where's the I'll pay you back? I showed it to the Silver Warriors group. Barbara, she'll bleed you dry, Linda. My son is 43 and still trying to milk me for money. I finally had to cut him off completely. Jean, no apology equals no change. She's just looking for another chance to take advantage. Shirley, you taught her how to treat you by what you've allowed. If you go back now, you're teaching her that tantrums and theft will be rewarded as long as she waits a few months. I read that letter 7 times. I cried over it twice. And then I wrote back. Dear Veronica, I received your letter. I note that you still haven't apologized for stealing from me or lying to me for months. I note that you haven't offered to repay the $40,000 you took under false pretenses. I note that you're still with Trevor, the man who helped plan to defraud me. I love you. I will always love you. But I will not be your bank account, your safety net, or your backup plan while you make poor decisions. When you're ready to take responsibility for your actions, when you're ready to apologize sincerely and make amends, you can contact me. Until then, I wish you well, but I cannot help you. Mom, I mailed it certified, return receipt requested. She signed for it on August 18th. I never heard from her again. That was 4 months ago. Some days are harder than others. I'll see a mother and daughter shopping together, laughing, and I'll feel a stab of grief for what I've lost. Or I'll see something Veronica would have liked, a scarf in her favorite color, a book by an author she loved, and I'll reach for my phone to text her before I remember. But most days, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. My house is mine. My money is mine. My decisions are mine. I'm painting watercolors 3 times a week. I'm terrible at it, but I'm getting better. I'm reading to children every Tuesday and Thursday morning, watching their faces light up during the exciting parts of stories. I'm taking a trip to Arizona this winter with the Silver Warriors group. We're going to see the Grand Canyon. I sleep well at night. I don't lie awake wondering what financial catastrophe is coming next. I don't check my bank account every morning in a panic. Patricia tells me I did the right thing. Dorothy tells me I should have done it sooner. The women in my WhatsApp group send encouragement and strength. But the truth is, I still don't know if I did the right thing. She's my daughter, my only child. Maybe I should have tried harder to help her. Maybe I should have given her another chance. Maybe I'm the one who failed to raise her right, failed to teach her better values, failed to see the warning signs earlier. Or maybe, and this is what I'm learning to believe, maybe I loved her the only way I knew how. And she chose to take advantage of that love, and that's not my fault. Maybe protecting myself wasn't selfish. Maybe it was survival. Maybe 65 isn't too old to start over, to reclaim your life, to remember who you were before you became just mom. I'm still figuring it out. One day at a time, one painting at a time, one morning walk at a time. But I know this. I will never again let someone make me feel invisible in my own home. I will never again give away my security for someone else's drama. I will never again confuse love with being used. Would you have forgiven them, or would you have stood your ground like I did? Sometimes I wonder if younger people understand what it's like to be treated as invisible in your own family. To watch your child, the person you sacrificed everything for, look at you and see nothing but a resource to be exploited. I hope you never have to find out. But if you do, I hope you remember my story. I hope you remember that it's never too late to protect yourself. It's never too late to demand respect. It's never too late to say, "This is my life, my money, my home, and I get to decide how it ends."